Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Roy Evans of the Jericho Broadcast Networks, and I am here with Mr. Darren Reed, who is the Senior Vice President of Stride Professional Development. Darren, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Roy. Glad to be here.
All right, well, thanks. So let's start off by telling the folks a little bit about what Stride Professional Development is.
Yeah, absolutely. Stride is the nation's leading provider of online education in the K through 12 space. We were formerly known as K-12 Inc. and are over 2 decades in the space of providing free virtual online education across the nation to students, no matter where they are. We've since changed our name to Stride because we've expanded beyond the K-12 space, though that's still very much what we do as a priority. What we've also done with the Stride Professional Development Center is we've leveraged some of our expertise over the past 2+ decades of supporting schools and students and educators, teachers, principals, and we are trying to innovate, the way professional development happens for educators, and that we're doing that through the Stride Professional Development Center. Gone are the days where it's face-to-face only PD. It's episodic professional development. It's professional development that's not necessarily relevant to what teachers and educators need right away. So the Professional Development Center is designed to solve that challenge with some unique and innovative ways of delivering content.
All right, man. Well, listen, we are super excited here at the network to be engaged with you all and helping to provide this opportunity for teachers all across the country, and especially those teachers that are coming from our HBCU backgrounds, because we know that education was always one of the stalwarts of most HBCUs in this country. They all had teaching programs, and that's what a lot of them were founded for. So there, let's talk a little bit about those special programs that you guys have for the teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Roy, you hit on the very important point. Right now in our country, we're facing probably one of the greatest challenges, of our teaching corps that we have in many, many years. And that's around this teacher shortage. A lot of teachers are exiting the profession. Just based on tenure, they're retiring and moving on, and then you have, our existing teachers who are being taxed and stressed, particularly post-COVID with, increasing demands, challenges that they're facing in the classroom, and a host of other issues that they struggle with. And we need good teachers, and we need to support the teachers that we have. So the two things that we're doing is that we know first-year teachers, among all teachers, are among the first to leave the profession within the first 5 years. I think they do at a 44% rate, which is just scary to think that folks are, graduated, want to go in the classroom and make a difference, but, feel like they need to leave within the first 5 years because it's so challenging. So we want to support them. Obviously, as a new teacher, your school that you work, where you work your first year, the district where you work, there will be some professional development support to assist you. But we want to go a step further. We want to help every teacher in the country get off to a strong start to their first year and have some stick-to-itiveness, to help them get through that first year. So we're offering a year free access to the Stride Professional Development Center. It's a ever-growing online database of courses that will help them in a variety of different ways. Classroom management, targeted instruction, and a host of other things. And the content will continuously grow. Again, it's just another resource that allows them to sharpen their practice, to feel like they're supported, because the research says that teachers are leaving in large part because they don't feel like they get enough professional support. So we really hope that helps new teachers. So again, this is for any new teacher who just graduated in the country. All you have to do is go to our site and sign on using the Teachers Win discount at checkout. Also, we have another campaign where during Teacher Appreciation Week, we gifted all teachers in the country, no matter where you are, 6 months free Professional Development Center access. But we're doing a special thing through our partnership with the BCSN and our HBCU graduates, and also the schools that you work with. We want any teacher in the country who through our partnership gets access to the Professional Development Center, and they get 6 months free using the BCSN 23 passcode at checkout. Again, our goal is to support and get as many teachers on the site feeling supported, to really help them succeed and have some success, not only for them, but obviously for our kids and the communities they serve. So
Most definitely. And Darren, listen, we are super excited again to be a part of this. My mother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. I have my best friend is a teacher. So we
Absolutely.
understand. I've worked in the school system for years. So I understand the resources that are needed. I understand why a lot of these teachers do take the time and they sit there, and after going through college, they're like, you know what, let's do something different.
Yeah.
So we're happy to be a part of this to help you guys change that. So ladies and gentlemen, here's all you guys need to do. All you need to do is take a look and go to the link that's right below us right now and see what you're going to do. You're going to see two links on the page now, just to make sure. The top one takes you to their professional development page, homepage, that'll let you know about some of the things that are happening there and the things that you have access to. Go to the second link that says Teacher Appreciation. That'll take you directly to the content page where you can sign up and get your free year if you're a new teacher, and your free 6 months if you're an existing teacher. Let's show them how we utilize resources, and we make sure that we take time, those folks who are HBCU alum, and use this. And let's see what Stride has to offer. We're excited about it. We know you will be too. Darren, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the folks?
No, I mean, just, as a teacher myself, and understanding the need, and of course with the diversity that's needed in our teaching corps across the country, I know our HBCU teacher graduates are just exactly what we need in our community. So I really encourage them, and just glad to be doing this partnership with you all.
All right. Well, folks, there you go again. Mr. Darren Reed, Senior Vice President of Stride Professional Development Learning. We will be seeing you guys, and trust me, you'll be seeing more from their partnership with us as we move forward, always trying to do our best to make sure that we move forward with the community. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know him like I know him.
Really nice, yeah, really nice. So Brian, as you said, we gotta comport ourselves in such a way that we can find a way on this trip with him. Next time we go like this. I don't know whether it's freaking fly miles that we need to partner with them, or somehow we got to negotiate this better. We got to figure out this partnership better.
Got to figure out where to get down there. Exactly.
He's not here with us, but we got Brian Forfeit to give a little bit of his time, since he doesn't have to worry that he's not over there in Brazil. He's in the U.S.
Thanks for the reminder, Doc.
Welcome to episode 458 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KSWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let me officially do this. Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. Got a lot of news to get to today with regards to HBCU sports. So ready to dive into it. Yeah, I know, right?
With that being said, Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Doc. I'm looking for an agent. I got to find me one of these agents that can get me one of these big contracts. So when you want to get rid of me, I got a big time buyout. I can still get paid and sit on the beach and be in Brazil with Mike Washington. I'm trying to find me a new agent.
That's not a bad point. That is not a bad point. If
Great
it has
point.
to happen, it's good in a position where you got a contract and money coming in. It's the worst thing in life. And unfortunately, some folks have experienced the worst part of it more than the other part of it. With that being said, Charles, let's get back into it. Before that, let me say today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Again, welcome to episode 458. We are here in filming from our home studio, sending still alive to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, a multi-Hall of Fame, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University for Houston, Texas. Charles, it's on to you.
Yeah, let's get right into it. Of course, news making the rounds today in the HBCU sports news. Southern has decided to fire football coach Eric Dooley less than 2 years into his tenure there at Southern. The school later made an announcement in a release this afternoon in which athletic director Roman Banks thanked Dooley, but said he recommended to the university leadership that a change in the leadership of the program was necessary. And this is a statement from Roman Banks after a thorough and continued evaluations of all components related to Southern football program. I have recommended President Chancellor Shields, Board of Supervisors, Chairman Myron Lawson, Athletic Chairman Attorney Damone Rutledge, that a change in the leadership of the program was necessary in order for the Jaguar football to reach our full potential and expectations of our football program. We appreciate and thank Coach Dooley for his time here at Southern and wish him the best in his future endeavors. So with that statement, that is the end of the Eric Dooley tenure there at Southern.
It's amazing when you really think about the irony. As tough as it is, he probably landed this job when he was the head of Prairie View and he went down to Southern on their homecoming and won that game and really beat him up pretty bad. And then he loses his job coming off of the game against Prairie View where he is head coaching Southern and loses to Prairie View with many of the players and many of the staff that he brought down to Prairie View with him that didn't come with him. Just the irony of how that works out in 2 years is very strong. The other thing that fascinated me when you see this is, you know, ADs, VPs of athletics say they make this recommendation. And as I know in the business, it's very seldom that the AD is actually the impetus for a move like this, whether it's the president, boosters, fans, whatever you want to call them.
Exactly.
Pushing it usually goes from that perspective, but the direct leadership team is the one that actually has to make the call and then put up the paperwork, even though oftentimes it's not what they think like that. So fascinating when you think about higher education in that practice. Brian, what's on your mind?
Are we talking? I'm sorry. Are we talking Dooley or are we talking elsewhere? Because now
I had a comment. So if you want to make a comment, you're welcome to make a comment on that.
Well,
before you get into some other news.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the whole departure, everyone's got to be looking at Roman Banks because you got rid of Dawson Odoms, who had been there for, almost a decade. And yeah, maybe he didn't win as many of the big rival games as you wanted, but he still had you in the hunt, in contention. You won a title with him, and you thought you upgraded. And so obviously that decision, you quickly pivoted and realized that was not a good decision. So now somebody within the administration or boosters, well, probably more administration, let's be real. But I know the boosters are probably screaming all day, any day, every day. But administration has got to be looking at him saying, okay, Roman, who's going to be this next hire? We need to get this one right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got rid of Dawson Odoms to go to Eric Dooley, and we get rid of him in the middle of, you probably, from what I've been hearing, you probably wanted to get rid of him sooner than a year and a half or almost the end of 2 years, right? So, and you got 2 years left on the contract. So you're going to be paying him, I read a report, almost $600-something thousand for the rest of his contract. And then we got to go and find somebody else. So we need to make a good hire, not a good hire, a great hire. Who's that going to be?
Got to knock it out the park.
You got to hit a home run. And we all know, guys, in coaching, that is so hard to do. There's so many factors that go into that, right? That's where the pressure lies right now. I mean, I think that's got to be a tough hiring process. Hopefully for Southern's sake, they don't have an 18-member selection committee to go through this process to try to find their coach, and that they let Roman Banks, or who knows, will Roman Banks have will he be the sole decision maker, or will there be others? I see you shaking your head, Doc. And that's a tough spot to be for Roman Banks. Now you're beholden to a bunch of other people because this hire didn't work out. So, winners and losers. Hey, winner, Eric Dooley, you get to walk away with $600,000. Win. And you don't get to really do it. You don't have to do anything for a year and a half if you don't want to. Loser, Roman Banks, because now the heat really is on now. The heat is really on you.
Great point, and I can't belabor this, and we got some other news we want to get to. We might have to back it up part of this, but I think the discussion is important. We like to talk about the business side of this, so this is opportunity. I think points you made, Brian, we can even complicate it further from this perspective. One of the things I always recommend to presidents who are on contracts, chancellors, ADs, VPs of athletics, and coaches at our level in HBCUs at the FCS level is usually the football coach, oftentimes the basketball, men's and women's, and most recently, sometimes the baseball coach. That's why it's so important to try to stay ahead of your contract. Always trying to make sure that you're in a position that you can sign the extension, particularly if you had a place to be. Because the second issue that Roman Banks is going to have is the fact that the president that he has now is not the president that hired him.
Oh.
So that makes it a challenge in regards to what you're talking about, Brian. Not only you may have a president or chancellor talking about you got to get it right, it's not necessarily somebody that trusts that you can get it right. Mm-hmm. Because it's not the person that brought you in. Now, obviously, if you're under contract, the nice thing is you get to work towards that. You get to work the trust of the individual that is currently the leader of the administration. So that's where it gets challenging in a lot of these positions, that you're not always doing this from that perspective. And then the other thing in the HBCU ranks is very rarely that a ADVP has the opportunity to make the hire. As you alluded to, oftentimes it's a committee. And usually that's the committee around higher education. That's a committee across the campus, academics, staff. And oftentimes those are folks that do not have expertise in athletics. And they're going to have their hands in this gumbo without the expertise. And with all respect to presidents and chancellors, oftentimes they'll make the decision. They don't have the expertise. That's not their area. They are good at higher education, understanding how to manage budgets oftentimes, the politics, the faculty line of how that goes, all those things, how to deal with politicians from the board. But athletics, particularly about understanding what goes into a head coaching, no matter what the sport, that's not that area. And they tend to make the decision. And we wonder how often we get this wrong. And then it falls on the AD or VP. And oftentimes they didn't make the decision. It wasn't a recommendation they made.
Yeah.
And the way this usually goes, you got a committee. They put 3 on the table. From those 3, the VP of athletics AD may take those 2 or 3, add somebody in there. We have a president say, well, put this person in there. And then oftentimes they fold up those 2 or 3, maybe take one off, add one, and then it goes to the president and chancellor. Then let me complicate it more. You got these boards. Oftentimes you have people on boards that have who they think should be the coach. They have no expertise in this area. And so even the president, oftentimes the president is beholden to the board that says this is the hire you make. So it can get extremely complicated in higher education about making a hire, whether it's football, basketball, some schools have more history in basketball and football. So it can go really intriguing in terms of what they look like.
Well, obviously the conversation now turns to where do you look in terms of the next head coach? And always the question is, do you look within the HBCU ranks?
My hopes is if you're in this position, as I said, this was leading up, and they say great AD VPs, they always have a short list of candidates. So I hope there's already somebody that you've kind of massaged, got some ideas, reached out on the back channel that you have talked to that may have an interest in the job that will fit the budget that you're looking at bringing somebody in and has the characteristics of the things you want. So
Fit the culture as well.
It should be a short list. But again, you can have the perfect person, and the other people may not want them. So I don't even know how much that matters in terms of what that person looks like, because you got so many people in the pot. So it doesn't matter whether you're going outside of HBCUs, inside, and it's an unexact science. We've seen all these hires. We've seen people do it traditionally and they get it right. We've seen people not do traditionally and they get it right. We've seen them not do traditionally and they get it wrong. We've seen them do traditionally and get it wrong. So it doesn't matter. There's no perfect sign how this thing goes.
Let me ask this question, Doc. How difficult is the process when you have a unique culture? I mean, this Southern fan base is a loud, aggressive fan base, and you know, I of course, you know, the first cousin Jackson State. I've lived through this. So how difficult does the process become, even when you're looking at coaches within the HBCU ranks, looking outside of the HBCU ranks? How difficult does the process become?
I think that's even a better question, a great question. The richer the culture, the more traditional the culture is in terms of their expectation of winning, i.e. FAMU, Jackson State, Southern, just being frank with you, Grambling State. You might even dip in there to some of the cousins out there in the MEAC, Tennessee State, for example. The more challenging it becomes, because the more people that are going to have interest in the hire, and more people are going to think they know what's best for the institution, regardless if they have the experience or not. So it becomes more troubling. The biggest thing that you have now that people don't even want to focus on, which is the blessing and the curse, the celebration bowl, and the money that's a part of that has heightened all this. All that money in there, the new television money associated with what the commissioners brought in, that brings in the angst. And now you got more people trying because they want their hands on the opportunity to get that big bag. And it shortens the window of expectation with the transfer policy, what happened with Coach Prime, what is happening with Coach Simmons. Even though he's been at FAMU a while, people just see his lens of being in the SWAC for a short period of time. So the ability for them to win, it looks like it's short. So now you shorten the expectation of what it means to build a team. And so your expectation, as we see, Dooley didn't get 2 full years. Wrong or right, it's just changed. This landscape has totally changed. So what have you done for me lately is more significant than ever before. With that, let's take a break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get a little bit of this news, and we'll get right back into some of our normal dialogue in terms of poll rankings, games of the week, and things of that nature. Great discussion. Thanks for bringing it up so we can get into it. We'll be right back after this break.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just up here on the right.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
Kind of got a 6th sense.
And a head-up display.
They're here.
Hit the field, warm up. You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yeah.
So you.
It is.
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Boy, I tell you, these breaks, man, we get a lot done during these breaks. Let's get back into it. Charles, what's some news of the day in terms of weekly honors?
Yeah, let's take a look at the SWAC Football Weekly Honors. The SWAC is named Texas Southern's Ladarius Owens and Jacob Williams, along with Prairie View's Efren Jasso and Bethune-Cookman's Markai Shaw as the SWAC Football Player of the Week for their impressive performances this past week. Let's take a look at the Offensive Player of the Week. Ladarius Owens, he rushed for 211 yards on 24 carries and 3 touchdowns in Texas Southern's huge upset win over Alcorn. He also became Texas Southern's all-time leading rusher and all-time single-season rusher during the contest. And kudos to Ladarius Owens. Defensive Player of the Week, he was Jacob Williams. He tallied 9 tackles with a tackle for a loss, a half sack, and a pair of pass breakups in Texas Southern's 44-10 win over Alcorn. Specialist of the Week was Prairie View's Efren Jasso. He contributed 3 punts for 142 yards while averaging 47.3 yards per punt with a long of 50 yards during Prairie View's 27-21 road win over Southern. He also placed 2 punts inside the 20-yard line for the Panthers. And the newcomer of the week, Bethune-Cookman's Markai Shaw. He finished the day with 12 carries for 109 yards, averaging 9.1 yards per carry in just his second appearance of the season against Alabama A&M. The true freshman, he contributed a 52-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter as the Wildcats completed a comeback win over the Bulldogs. They were down 14-0 in that game and came storming back. So kudos to all those players for SWAC Football Weekly Honors.
Certainly kudos to all those players. I want to give a special shout out to Ladarius Owens, as you talked about becoming the history, setting history at Texas Southern University. 2,970 yards, as you said, career totals. Also single season record, 1,226. Thomas Say held the previous all-time total yard career record from 1994 to 1998. Going back in the history books a little bit, shout out to Ladarius Owens. With that being said, let's get into some MEAC football honors, Brian.
Yes, indeed. The MEAC announces weekly football honors presented by Coca-Cola. Howard quarterback Quentin Williams named the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Player of the Week, presented by Coca-Cola. Norfolk State's Teron Mallory earned Defensive Player of the Week honors, while Howard's Gavin Harris was the Rookie of the Week, and Norfolk State's Garrison Wheatley and Morgan State's Jordan Tolles received Offensive Lineman and Specialist of the Week accolades, respectively. Williams, what did Williams do? Well, all he did was record a season-high 4th touchdown in Howard's win over number 7 North Carolina Central, also number 1, previously number 1 in Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab poll. He completed 23 of 33 passes for 277 yards and 3 touchdowns, rushed 4 times for 15 yards with 1 touchdown. Mallory of Norfolk State is a defensive back from New Haven, Connecticut, was the first player in Norfolk State Division I history to record 3 interceptions in the Spartans' victory over Dell State. He totaled 2 tackles with 1 pass breakup in the team's first conference win of the season. Mr. Harris, Gavin Harris, is a tight end from San Antonio, Texas, freshman. He registered a career-high 3 catches for 41 yards, including an 18-yard touchdown reception in Howard's victory over North Carolina Central. Wheatley, the offensive lineman from Norfolk State, from Johns Island, South Carolina, graded out at 85% on his blocking assignments as he anchored the Spartans offense that recorded 459 yards, including 285 on the ground. He recorded 5 pancake blocks and 5 knockdowns. Somebody get that man an NIL deal from Denny's, please. And Tolles, the defensive back from Baltimore, Maryland, fielded the ball on special teams and broke several tackles to finish off the improbable 73-yard score with 4:44 left in the game to seal the Bears' win and ruin the last home game for Buddy Pugh and South Carolina State. Unbelievable. Great job by Tolles. Great job by Morgan State. And they just created another MEAC-ish weekend for us all. So can't wait for Saturday.
Boy, well said. Shout out to those MEAC football award honors as we had chaos in the MEAC. And not to be outdone on Sunday, we seem to have chaos, at least in the Western Division, in the SWAC as well. With that being said, I want to show a little love to the women's side soccer. Quietly, one of my favorite sports, as people may or may not realize, particularly at the Division II level. The Lady Bears win first championship in soccer program history. The Shaw University women's soccer team captured its first championship in the program history. The Lady Bears topped Edward Waters 3-1 in win in the inaugural NCAA Division II Independent HBCU tournament title in Durham County Memorial Stadium. Team captain Victoria Hines led the way with 1 goal and 1 assist for Shaw, which has won a season high 14 games. Hines, a 3-year player, believes the women's soccer program, which started in 2017, took a major step with the win. 2023 has been the best so far for the Lady Bears as they finished 14-4-1. Shout out to Edward Waters starting the program. They were in the finals. Virginia State has a program. Yeah, Bluefield State that's also out there in the program. Edward Waters defeated Bluefield State 5-2 to make it in the round. And Lady Bears, you see, they defeated Virginia State to get in the championship game. So I'm excited about this news. Just stumbled across it and wanted to give a little love out there. With that being said, let's get into our next break so we can come back and talk about those polls. Brian told you who was number one. Number one went down, so we see if they can find a way to stay there, or do we have a new number one this week? I wonder who it may be. With that being said, let's go to our next break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll get into it and let you know, starting with the mid-major first.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
The Cavil. Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than Professor Bishop and Professor Fulford. With that being said, we can get in the major division. Before we do that, I did want to shout out, we'll talk deeper on this on Thursday. We'll give a shout out to Benedict and Virginia Union had made the NCAA Division II tournament. We'll talk about where they sit and potential fans that they have and what are their opponents. Benedict, as you may or might not know, has a bye as they were number 1 seed in their region, and Virginia Union will play Shepherd and see what it looks like. They were shipped out to a different region. We'll talk a little bit about how that happened on Thursday in regards to travel being one of the issues that allowed the NCAA committee to slide them from one region to another region as they were ranked in that region. That probably threw up a lot of folks off. With that being said, dropping out this week in terms of the poll ranking are none other than Albany State Golden Rams that fell in the SIAC championship game, 6-5 to Benedict. 6-2 is how they finished in the conference. Florida Memorial also dropped out at 6-4, 5-2 as they lost against the number 6 program at the NIA level. That being said, as you see, receiving votes is Allen Yellow Jackets, 7-3, 5-3, 121 points. Also receiving votes just under them, essentially at the 9th spot, is Albany State Golden Rams, 6-5, 6-2, 111 points. And then you have Florida Memorial Line, 6-4, 5-2, filling out the top 10 essentially with 107 points in receiving votes category. Let's get into the top 7. See who jumps in this week. Jumping in at number 7 is Tuskegee Golden Tigers. They are 7-3 as their season is complete now, finishing with a conference record of 6-2, 129 points. They were not ranked last weekend, but because of the teams that below them fell out, they were able to recategorize at 129 points and jump in the top 7. Just like number 6, Miles Golden Bears, who also finished the season with the same exact record of 7-3, 6-2 in the conference race as well. 138 points. They were not ranked, but they jumped in the top 7. Brings to number 5, where things will stay calm and stay the same. Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls are 7-3, 6-2, 140 points. They stay at number 5, as well as number 4. Virginia State Trojans finished the season at 8-2, 6-2 at 144 points, ranked number 4. At number 3 is Fayetteville State Broncos, 8-3, 8-0, 163 points, finished the season at number 3. And at number 2, you have Virginia Union Panthers, as we talked about, will be in the Division II playoffs, 10-1 on the season after winning the CIAA championship as they defeated Fayetteville State. Conference record was 7-1, 180 points, and they remain at number 2. At the number 1 spot are the undefeated Tigers, 11-0, 8-0 as they did in the conference race, as we said, winning the SIAC championship over the Albany State Golden Rams. 9 first-place votes, 189 points, as they unanimous, maintain that unanimous number 1 spot, week number 11, which means also you have the Florida Beach Bowl, which will feature a matchup between number 5, Johnson C. Smith, and Fort Valley State, just outside of the top 10. With that being said, let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of the mid-major poll ranking in week number 11?
I think the top 3, the top 4 were set, in terms of taking a look at Benedict, Virginia Union, Fayetteville, and Virginia State. Now, I'm taking a look at the Beach Bowl representatives, and then I'm starting to take a look at the bottom 2 with regards to Tuskegee and Miles. As far as those receiving votes, who would I have dropped out? Well, I would have dropped out Tuskegee for an Albany State in terms of looking at a team that, although they take a big L in the SIAC championship game, they get that bowl bid. So I probably had them down there at 7.
You like to see Fort Valley at number 7?
Yeah, I want 2 ranked teams down there in the Beach Bowl.
2 ranked teams.
Yeah.
Well, things keep calculating. We'll see what it looks like. As we do it next week. It might work out, might not. We'll see what that looks like. But good point. Brian Fulford, A&A, it's not like they don't have an argument. I will say that before I go to Brian and see your thoughts in terms of similar records of what that looks like and all the nature there. With that being said, let me go to you, Brian, in terms of what that looks like. But before I do that, I will say that Fort Valley is sitting at 11. So they're just outside of that top 10. So they're not far out of there in terms of their record being 73-6-2. But Brian, what are your thoughts when you see the gluttony of all these teams at 6 and below, I guess you could say?
Well, Doc, I guess the only people who saw value in Fort Valley State besides me, who had them ranked 4, was the people from the Beach Bowl. So I am not part of the Beach Bowl selection committee. I want to say that loud and clear, even though it's here in Florida. But I guess we saw Fort Valley State for what they were, which is a deserving team. So Charles, if the rest of the voters had thought like me, you had that matchup, and Fort Valley State would be in the top 7. You know, I had them ranked 4th. So I must clearly have thought way more Fort Valley, except for the Beach Bowl. So we'll get a chance to see them. I'm excited, happy for them. And, you know, Johnson C. Smith, you know, I had them, I'm just looking at my rankings. I had them 9, 9. But, you know, anyway, them getting an opportunity to go being a number 5 seed, I mean, hey, it's deserving. I mean, like I said, when you look at the number of teams that are 6-2 in their conference records,
yeah,
and you're trying to figure out who is worthy. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to kind of look at this and really try to say who beat who. Well, this team beat them, but then that team beat the other team. So Fort Valley is the only one I look at and say, wow, really? Nobody saw value in Fort Valley? You had them 11th? Wow. That's hardcore.
I know, Brian, because I watched the show. I didn't get to catch it live last night as I was doing work over here in Houston, catching up with, if you would, the Texas Southern Tigers taking it to Alcorn State Braves in what became the Sunday afternoon massacre.
Sunday massacre.
Down the top 7. Exactly. But I text you all day as if you wasn't in class talking about, hey, as y'all got me talking about. I say, man, hold on. How you going to have Alcorn up there over Prairie View and Prairie View beat Alcorn? And this is the bad thing. He was making an argument that Alcorn was going to be over somebody else because they beat them and they had the same record. I said, man, if these folks don't do no homework, they just look at 1 week and the week before that. They don't go back to the rest of the season, boy. Yeah, I'll talk about you something bad.
But I know you did. I know you did, Doc. But see, that's why I try to look at the body of work. And I looked at the body of work, and maybe by the body of work, rather than just 1 week or 2 weeks or one game, or the fact that you beat somebody on a last-second field goal, I try to look at the body of work and determine, you know, who's what. And that's why I did that, you know. So
before we go on this break, we'll come back and talk about some of these games. But when we get to the major division after the following break in discussion, I do want to give you and commend you that you had great dialogue. You didn't really get to talk about it, but I thought it was perfect discussion. And I want to get both of you all thoughts on this before we leave the show today. He said top 3 in the MEAC, essentially Howard, North Carolina Central, and Morgan State, versus the top 3 in the SWAC East, FAMU, Alabama State, and Jackson State. Who do you put over the other? I was like, woo! I see now that it's some meat on the bone. And they were so late in the show, they couldn't get it into it more. But I was like, oh, I'm going to borrow that one. Particularly, I got Brian on the show. We really can get into it. Let's get into our next break, and we'll get into a little discussion of the games of the week. And we'll save some time to make sure we answer that before all the lab listeners out there. You can start the discussion now. Let me know. Top 3 in the MEAC or top 3 in the SWAC East? Where's your money lay? We'll be right back after this break.
Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. We're never not working. Number 15?
That's my rub.
Ooh, nice.
Never not working.
Never, ever, never, ever not working.
Welcome everybody to Juneau, Alaska.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders scalp shield technology.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, because he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop, Professor Fulford. Let's get back into it and talk about some of these matches. Obviously, we are outside of the mid-major classic games, so we're gonna add in some of our major games as bonus, both in the MEAC and the SWAC. We'll start them today. We'll get into the Division II playoff on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more about those matchups, but we're going to go heavy on the major division today. HBCU SWAC major division game of the week. Bonus, if you would. Bonus game goes to Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. Saturday afternoon, November the 18th at 2:00 p.m. ESPN. Some teams will be playing, but a lot of people will be watching. It'll be a top 5 matchup between rivals that go back to the dawn of time, it seems. Number 5, Alcorn State Braves, coming off a tough loss on the road at 6-4, 5-2 short week, but need this game to stay in the race, if you would, in terms of the West Division. As things shake out, they are tied with Prairie View after Prairie View got a big win over Southern. It looked like, in many ways, may have been the final straw for Coach Dooley in terms of him being relieved officially of his duties today. And Prairie View had the head-to-head victory over Alcorn State on the road with the last-second field goal, if you think about it. Well, Jackson State had their worries. They've been playing really good football. They had a tough loss to FAMU. I don't want to get into the debate of whether that's a rivalry or not. We'll let other folks decide that. But number 4, Jackson State Tigers certainly know this is a rival. They're 7-3, 5-2. They have an outside shot at the playoffs and certainly would like to win this game to state their case of what that looks like. I teased this out the other day with North Carolina Central, and that's our other MEAC bonus game of the week. They're still in the mix for a Celebration Bowl, but it looks more like that may not happen, and they're squarely in a position to get a playoffs. Well, things work out. You put in a bid. Jackson State gets in. Send Jackson State over to the Central. Or Jackson State may say, hey, we got a bigger stadium. We'll pay bigger bucks. We'll host it. Send them over here. Anyway, you would get a rematch of last year's Celebration Bowl. T.C. Taylor coached at North Carolina Central. Young coaches taking over their program, moving success. Boy, it'd be an intriguing matchup. So if we can't get in the playoffs, maybe we can find a way to get it done in a non-conference game. Just play home and away. I don't know. Maybe that's too much work I'm putting on the ADs and VPs of athletics, but we can all drink. Really what we want to focus on is this matchup, though, between the Braves and the Tigers. Well, who better to give us some insight into this than none other than Charles Bishop?
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at this game, and of course, this type of rivalry, you throw these records out. I think Jackson State paid a lot of attention to Ladarius Owens running through that Alcorn State defense this past weekend. And that was one of the questions that I had for Coach Taylor with regards to the health of Irv Mulligan, because I believe it gives Jackson State a completely different look offensively when he's in the lineup. He is a tough, hard, physical running back. And his health, I think, goes a long way towards helping that offense click. Because I think Jacoby Morgan's lack of experience at quarterback has reared its head at times, because Jackson State's offense will go dormant. We saw it go dormant for stretches against Pine Bluff. Luckily, they had built enough of a lead. It went dormant for stretches against Texas Southern. So I think his presence gives them a tremendous advantage. I was surprised that Alcorn was not able to throw the ball against Texas Southern. That's something that they have been doing very well this season. And you're talking about an Alcorn offense going up against the leading secondary in the nation in terms of picking, in terms of interception. So I think you got a lot of things that kind of favor Jackson State in this game. But to me, it comes down to the running game. Can they be more physical than Alcorn? Can they be as physical as Texas Southern? Because I think Texas Southern quietly has been one of the most physically dominating offensive lines all season. So can Jackson State do that? They'll get the W.
Charles, is it still just as sweet with Alcorn being tied with Prairie View, and obviously they need Prairie View to lose and win, versus if they had won last week and they needed the win to maintain their position, where Jackson State could have knocked them out officially in the Western Division?
Yeah.
Does it still matter that much?
I think it still matters. I mean, this is an unbelievable rivalry. When you talk about, I think, will it take away a few fans? Yeah, but I'm still expecting 40,000 in the bet this weekend with regards to Jackson State and Alcorn. So I think in regards to that, Texas Southern Alcorn might have been a blip on the radar, but the fan bases are still going to be out there in force. And that, Alcorn loves nothing more than knocking out Jackson State.
There it is. Brian, get you into this rivalry and get your thoughts on it. Obviously, this is not as new it could be to you. It's your third edition of this, so you've seen a little bit and heard a little bit. But what are your thoughts on this matchup? Charles kind of focused on the offense of Jackson State versus the defense of Alcorn State. What are your thoughts on the vice versa side? The Braves offense versus the Jackson State defense, and then any place where you want to go in terms of this matchup as well.
I think what's interesting to look at for Alcorn is that in that loss, where pretty much you were out of it at halftime, right? I think we all kind of felt they're not looking good for Alcorn. Quarterback Aaron Allen played the entire game. He threw 40 passes. No other quarterback came in. So to me, Coach McNair leaving him in that contest and letting the team just kind of go through that butt whooping and deal with being out there, it's got to be a sobering but motivating thing going into this week of practice. Jarvion Howard only rushed for 41 net yards. Nico Duffy only had 12. I felt really good about this Alcorn team over the last 6-7 weeks. I really feel like, and so this is, I'm excluding the first two games, right? I'm taking that out of the mix. I mean, yes, they counted on the record, blah, blah, blah. But since that, when they really kind of found themselves, last week was the first time that they really, I feel like, got punched in the mouth over and over, like UFC style. In boxing, you get hit, you fall down, and you get 10 count. UFC, they hit you, and then they stay on top of you, boom, 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 boom. And then officials got to come in and say, whoa, 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 that's enough. That's what happened to Alcorn, is they got UFC beat down, right? So, whoa, wake up. Now Alcorn is going to get a chance to play Jackson State. And, I think they have a better than a puncher's chance on the road against Jackson State, and I think I'll say this. It's interesting. I was going to ask Charles, and he brought it out. Does Jackson State have the running game to duplicate what Ladarius Owens did? 211. I mean, if Irv Mulligan's not playing or not healthy, I don't know who's going to do it for Jackson State. With all respect, now that Mulligan is dangerous, but
yeah, I think they've been doing running back by committee, and the running backs have been doing an admirable job. I think Ahmad Miller is much in the mold of an Irv Mulligan. He's a hard runner that runs in between the tackles, but undoubtedly, Mulligan is just a different individual back there. Like I said, it gives this offense a different look, and I believe it opens up things downfield. But his health is just one of those things that I'm really paying attention to in regards to this game.
And I love the fact. I look. One last thing, I love the fact. Like I said, I'm new to this, but I love this is for that state championship. The state of Mississippi, HBCU, who gets to wear the state champ crown and all that stuff. But just the fact that this game means literally something to both teams. I mean, for Alcorn, it keeps you. Maybe it is what you need to get to the championship game. And then, like Doc said, I didn't really think about Jackson State having a shot, but I mean, look, with 24 teams getting in, and when it comes down to finances, well, Jackson State should put in a bid. They definitely should. They should be on the radar, fussing, telling everybody in the FCS, hey, look at us. Look at us. I mean, we're in the best. We're over here in the SWAC East. Look at us. You got a SWAC East team ranked number 7. Look at us. That's what they need to be yelling all week and next week.
Yep. Good points. Good commentary there. With that being said, gets us probably time before we go to the next game, and I'm coming back to you, Brian, to talk about this as we shift to the MEAC. I loved on the show yesterday, y'all broke down and literally went through the framework of deciding who was still in the mix, and then realized that Grambling had an opportunity and ultimately could be the team that coming down there. Hey, to hurt your feelings that Prairie was going to win it and put all that back, so you're just going to see them again. I know y'all don't want to see them again, probably for a different reason. But with that being said, with that being said, in all seriousness, Alcorn and the Braves need this game. They can win this game.
Yeah. Prairie
View slips up, then they're in the Whithouse, and they're the ones traveling to Tallahassee. If Prairie View wins, regardless of what happens, because of the head-to-head tiebreaker, then they're into on the trip to Tallahassee, I should say. People didn't realize it until late, and I had to tell everybody out there. I got to officially shout out to Andrew of Sports Communication, Associate Commissioner over there with the SWAC, giving us the heads up. And I thought about it, and I was trying to tell everybody, but he gave me the official breakdown of the tiebreakers. And if both teams, meaning Prairie View loses, Alcorn loses, then we have to wait 2 weeks until the Bayou Classic. Yeah. Grambling wins. And now with the changes to Southern, the Grambling folks are feeling pretty good about their chances in that game, even though it's a rivalry game. So just when you think you had the advantage, it can fall apart. We saw that last year, literally, when Grambling made a change with a acting coach in that matchup a couple of years ago, and they were able to win and beat Southern in terms of that matchup. With that being said, if both teams lose, you have a 3-way tie, and it falls out in such a way because of the head-to-head tiebreakers that it falls out that Alcorn is the first one out. Then it comes down to Prairie View and Grambling, and because Grambling has the head-to-head against Prairie View in a two-team race, then Grambling goes. Oddly enough, Southern is right there. Southern could win that game, and if Southern wins, there's a 3-way tie for the division title, but they lost to both Prairie View and Alcorn, so they out. So then the tiebreaker comes back to Prairie View and Alcorn, and we just talked about earlier that Prairie View won the head-to-head, so they go. So again, Prairie View wins, they're in. If Prairie View loses, Alcorn wins, they're in. Both lose, and Grambling wins, they're in. If both lose and Southern wins, then Prairie View's in.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong real quick, but wasn't Terrence Graves the interim coach for Grambling when they made that coaching switch? Okay. How unique is that? Wow.
And now he will
Are you serious?
Literally
Wow.
on the other team doing the same role for the Southern Jaguars, seeing if he can get his second win.
Right.
Exactly. coach this time for the squad. Fascinating to see how they work. Let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and give you the major division top 10. So many storylines out there to talk about. Fascinating. When we just thought things were closing up, they get interesting. We'll be right back after this break.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients. Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Before we get into this major division top 10 poll ranking, I do want to sneak in the MEAC bonus game of the week. That is in Durham, North Carolina, Old Kelly Riddick Stadium. North Carolina Central Eagles are hosting Delaware State Hornets that are 1-9 on the season, 0-4. I have them in my total rankings of the 21 HBCU FCS programs at number 19. Their only win is against Virginia and Lynchburg. They've had some close matchups, but not so much last weekend against Norfolk State. You have number 2 North Carolina Central Eagles that fall 8-2 on the season. They are 3-1 in terms of the MEAC race. They fall to number 14 in the FCS ranking, so they still have something to play for. Obviously, if Howard loses against Morgan State, we'll talk about that in terms of our Thursday matchup. And then they still have a chance to go to Celebration Bowl, as many people really are not thinking about that. But they also have a chance at the FCS playoffs in terms of that. Seriously, they should be in a position to get that bid, what that looks like. So with that said, let me stick with you, Brian. What are your thoughts in terms of this Delaware State, North Carolina Central Eagles matchup?
How do we can hope for Delaware State. I know people in the Maryland, D.C. area might be rooting for Delaware State, but just concentrate on everything happening in that region of the country. Don't even look south to North Carolina. Just let them do what they're gonna do. I don't know, man. Del State is a team that they've been giving out candy to everybody. So I don't know how all of a sudden they're gonna shock the world. So I would just say it's great to be in North Carolina.
He said they all of a sudden gonna get stingy with their candy.
Yeah, I mean, you've been giving out candy all year, and now all of a sudden y'all want to play well at the end of the season. Anyway, North Carolina Central, you got to love their options. I think that's the big thing, and they should make sure they put up points. This is the game that you come back and answer and drop 50 on Del State. It's possible. Hell, we've seen a lot of teams put up a lot of points on Del State. Do not take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
All gas, no brakes. Beat them don't worry about the fact that you may see them in another year or that they're conference rivals. Just beat them because you need to impress the pollsters and remind the pollsters that, hey, we are a top 10 program. Nice. And right now they're 14. You don't want to drop because you played a close game to a 1-9 program. That's the thing that could get you knocked out of the playoffs. Now, look, if what happens in D.C. happens in D.C. and somehow you end up winning the conference, great, congratulations. We'll see you in Atlanta. But I think they gotta put their foot on the pedal and really beat Del State good, beat them good, and and just, hey, pollsters, we're ready. We're ready for the FCS playoffs, as that's where we should be.
You see how he slid that in there, Charles? Talking, we'll see you in Atlanta, Charles.
I'm saying as an HBCU fan, I'm working that game, so I'll be there. That's all. I didn't mean
my fault.
I wasn't trying to slide anything up. Like, Doc, come on, now stop.
I wasn't right. My fault. You good.
Well, Doc, to Brian's point, everybody in the neighborhood, they know the house that has the best candy, and Delaware State has the best candy in the MEAC. So that's in fact in my neighborhood. Everybody knows to come to the Bishop house because Wendy Bishop is gonna give out some of the best candy in the neighborhood. So that's Delaware State. Delaware State.
Delaware State says it's Halloween. They want to go get the candy. They want to go trick or treat.
They get the whole Snicker bar. So I'm expecting for North Carolina Central coming off this L to go and make a statement against the Hornets this weekend. Hornets are looks like they're the worst offense in the MEAC. They're also the worst defense in the MEAC. They are the candy lady this weekend. So
he said not only they giving whole bars, they giving the king size.
Yeah. You get chips and everything over at Delaware State.
That's wild. Let's get in this major division poll as we just crowd this all up. Getting into the major division, dropping out this week is Hampton Pirates, 5-5, 3-4 after a tough loss. They fell out as the independent program that was in the top 7. How far they had fallen. I remember at one time they were up there and some people were arguing to see how far they should be up there. Also falling out is Tennessee State, 6-4, 2-3. I even remember one time somebody was saying they should be number 1 ranked. Or was it Hampton? Either one. Some people had both. Receiving votes this week, the Tennessee State Giants are 6-4, 2-3, 165 points. I wasn't gonna say no name. At number also receiving votes essentially at 9, the Southern Jaguars 5-5, 4-3, 151 points. And Hampton Pirates finished at 5-5, 3-4. Think about this. Southern Jaguars, I know it's just 2-1 team, but they're essentially in the top 10. They're at 5-5, and that was not good enough for the coach in his second year to keep his job. You cannot lose to your rivals, no matter where you are, but you certainly can't do it in Southern when you lose, particularly when your second set of rivals just joined the conference in terms of FAMU. You got your main one over to Jackson State. They come and beat you at home like a drum. And then you go on the road to your rivals over there with the Braves, and they just take it out on you. Ooh, yeah, it gets tough. Hampton Pirates 5-5, and then you backdoor it with a loss to Prairie View that considers themselves your rival, and you don't even think about them. They have won 2 out of the last 3. Just to give you some more thoughts about how you might want to start thinking about that.
They shouldn't be an afterthought anymore. Yeah, they shouldn't be an afterthought anymore.
With that being said, Charles, jump in there. What are your thoughts on top 7?
Juicy top 7 because look at the matchups this weekend. We got Alabama State coming to Prairie View. Man, for everything on the line. We got 4 and 5 with Jackson State and Alcorn. This top 7. This is exactly about right. This is how it's supposed to look here at the end of the season. And now I get the full sort of a spectrum of week to week. And now we're in the waning weeks here, and the cream has risen to the top here as far as the top 7. So no arguments whatsoever with the top 7.
Appreciate it. Brian, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 7? Major division, week 11.
Good to see there are no rogue voters this week. I tell you, man, it's tough, but it's about look. I think everything from 2 to 5 is fair play. I think I may have voted Jackson State a little higher, of course, Alcorn. I'm not going to penalize I penalized North Carolina Central one game. They did go on the road, so it wasn't like it was at home, and there was all the hoopla surrounding the game. So it wasn't like they got beat to a random team. They did lose to a team who was itching to get them, and so that's what happened. And so, but it's so hit or miss. I think what's interesting is there's so much middle of the road teams, 5-5, 6-5. And then there's really a big, I was looking at this the other day. There's like 6 teams, 7 teams that all have like just one win. I mean, it really, there's this big gap between bad and average. Again, bad, average, and then there's like an upper tier. And so while I think a lot of us were really putting Central and FAMU in that top tier, I think this weekend, if the East does what I think the East can do, this will sort of separate tiers.
Let me do this correct so we have it on the record, and then I'll come back to you, Charles. So hold that. Let me do the poll rundown. We didn't do it. I know y'all talked about it, but I want to show it on the screen for everybody, just for those that can't see it, because you get the records before we go on the show, so you can break it down. So at number 7, we have Prairie View A&M Panthers that sit at 5-5, 275 points. They were not ranked. At number 6, we have the Howard Bison at 5-5, 3-1, with a great 50-point win over North Carolina Central. 180 points. They were not ranked, so they jumped into the top 7. At number 5, the Alcorn State Braves that is 6-4, 5-2, 191 points. They do fall a spot after getting beat by Texas Southern. They face number 4 Jackson State Tigers, 7-3, 5-2, 192 points, who dropped the spot, being off this week. 4-5 is that matchup. Alabama State Hornets, as they kept winning, that win over Jackson State has jumped them over there with the voters. They are at 7-3, 5-2, which sets up that 3 versus 7 matchup that Charles talked about. And Prairie View Panthers Stadium this weekend, 214 points. They drop up 2 spots after a win over Valley as they continue to win, winning 5 in a row. And number 2, you have North Carolina Central Eagles. They fall from the number 1 spot. They're 8-2, 3-1, 240 points. Some people are going to drop them further, but because of the body of work in this poll ranking, voters and the system, they just drop 1 spot. They do give up all first place votes. So not only do you have FAMU at the top of the poll ranking at 9-1 and 7-0, they now have all 12 first place votes. So they are unanimous number 1 in week number 11, 252 points, previous being 2. So that's just the total ranking that y'all were talking about for everybody to get that. Charles, what were you going to say?
I agree with Brian in regards to tiers, but this is where I start really paying attention to these final weeks of the season, because to me that gap is closing between that top tier and these teams that are just right in the mix. I mean, I and that's the thing that really caught me, not by too much surprise, especially with regards to Alcorn and Texas Southern. In fact, I was saying that Alcorn, I think, is a team that's been ascending, but they could run into some issues with regards to Texas Southern's running game. And I still see the same thing going into the SWAC championship game, because I have FAMU at that top tier. But any of these teams that finish out the SWAC West can provide some issues to FAM. And that's where I think the sort of, once you get into these waning weeks, the gap kind of closes a little bit.
Fascinating. Great points. Let's get into our last break. Come back on the other side. We'll do these 2 major division matchups, and then I'm going to ask you your final thoughts on MEAC top 3 and SWAC top 3. We'll be right back after this last break.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients. Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles and Brian. Let's get into it. I want to get into the independent major division game of the week first. Nashville, Tennessee, Nissan Stadium. This is Tennessee Tech, the Golden Eagles, 3-7 on the season, 1-4. They're at number 8, the Tennessee State Tigers, 6-4, 2-3. 5 Division I wins. Can they get over that hump, get to 7 total wins? A winning record just against Division I programs would be huge, obviously outside of the race for the playoffs and the OVC championship after losing 2 in a row. But I'm fascinated to see, can the program get off this losing streak after starting off in the middle of the season that went really well, where a lot of people had the excitement in terms of where they brought. They need this win to maintain that, or you really start to talk about a dud of a season after you accomplish so much with a winning season to lose 3 straight, particularly in conference play. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup between Tennessee Tech, Golden Eagles, and Tennessee State Tigers?
Last year, Tennessee State dropped Tennessee State, no issues whatsoever. 30-14 was the last matchup. When you take a look at what they were able to do, Draylon Ellis had a great game. And to me, to get off this losing streak, I've got to refine that Tennessee State defense that I thought was one of the more dominant defenses back in September and October. They got to find a way to close the door. They should be able to do it against Tennessee Tech. Great win on the road last year. You're coming back at home. You're going to want to finish out on a strong note. Draylon Ellis has to have a big game in this.
Good stuff. Brian, remember Tennessee Tech beat up on South Carolina State. They went on the road to get that victory against the HBCU crossover to MEAC. But last year, North Carolina Central, at the end of the season before they played in the Celebration Bowl and had that epic game against Jackson State in terms of the top 2 teams playing in that, they went on the road to Tennessee Tech and came from behind and got a last-second victory there. So you talk about Charles and his momentum of saying Tennessee State got it done last year. When you put all that together, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Well, I think this is a great opportunity for TSU to close the season out right. I was just looking back, 5 wins 2 years ago, 4 wins last year. So they've already trended and turned around the program, going in the right direction. This is a chance to get you at 7, which is a good number. Good number going into next year. And I think, look, Tennessee State has done what I thought they would do back when they were, we were feeling all good about them after the Kennesaw State game. Like, they had Norfolk, Lincoln, and Lindenwood, right? We all felt like, that's 3 wins that you could realistically, they put 4 wins in a row, and then you had to go into the last 2 games, and we find out if you're ready for that next step, and they weren't. So, but that's okay. So I think this is a great opportunity. Finish the season on a win. This will be a worthy adversary at this point in the year. Tennessee Tech's trying to get out of there, but they're gonna fight you here at the end. Tennessee State's won 4 of the last 5 contests. Great opportunity to get 7 wins, and it's a great building block for next year. I promise you this: the excitement for where people preseason rank Tennessee State. They win this game. You watch. Tennessee State will be a top 3 ranked team next season. I'm calling it. I'm predicting it. People will be talking about them as one of the top 3 teams in the preseason going into next year. Should they go ahead and handle this game and finish with 7 wins?
Yeah.
They finished it. I certainly would say that they'll be top 5, top 3. I'd be interested to see how many people think that. I like that. The other thing is, closing out the season, you get to 7 wins, you squarely put yourself in a position to be in that top 7. And I really like the top 7 when we talked about preseason, when we ranked and we broke it down. 7, 14, 21. That puts you at the top 3rd. If you can find a way to get in that top 7, you're in the top 3rd of the HBCU FCS programs. I think that's significant when you talk about training and putting yourself in a position to really make a run next year at a conference championship, to be in the top 3 that you talk about in HBCU programs that put themselves in a position to win any conference. With that being said, let's get into the big game over there, classic-wise. Classic major division game of the week takes you to Orlando, Florida, Camping World Stadium, Florida Classic. SWAC matchup now, ESPNU 230. Number 1 Florida A&M Rattlers, as we just announced on the show today, 9-1 on the season, 7-0. Ranked and moved up to number 7, taking the spot of North Carolina Central, as they were 9 last week. Now they're number 7. They steady climb in the top 25 of the coaches poll, FCS. They take on Bethune-Cookman Wildcats that have won 2 in a row, trending in the right direction. Talking about closing out your season right, 3-7, 2-5. Should be interesting from that perspective. Let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of this SWAC matchup between the rivals of Florida in Florida?
We've seen teams give Florida A&M a run for their money in a half, and then the depth of the defensive line starts taking over, and dark cloud defense starts taking over, and Katie barred the door at that point. And I don't see any difference in this game. I think Cookman has done a good job. They are a good, and I got to be careful how I say it, scrappy team that gives you some issues. They can run the ball a little bit. Very impressive this past week against Alabama A&M, down 14-0, 31 straight. So they showed me some explosiveness and some playmaking ability. But yeah, it's too much hubba this weekend.
He said scrappy as if they not the dog bulldog.
All right, they are a wildcat, exactly.
Wildcat, to be exact. Brian, I saved it for you. Set us up. What do you think about this matchup? Feeling pretty good, aren't you?
Hey, look, we got to thank Bethune for what they've done over these last couple of weeks, because that's helping the ticket sales. It helps. It gives Bethune-Cookman fans a reason to want to come see their team, and gives them that small sliver of hope. Because I think 2 weeks ago, folks weren't buying tickets. I mean, Bethune-Cookman fans were like, "Oh, I watch this on TV. We're gonna get smoked." Now, after 2 games, and then what they did, look, they came back from 14-0. People are like, "Oh, we got a team that can run the ball. We got a team that's not gonna quit." Hey, that's great. Well, look, let me just say this, okay? When y'all get down 14-0 to FAMU, there won't be no comeback. There won't be a dog laying down on the ground and rolling over. No, that's not going to happen, because there will be a snake pit of rattlers on that A. That's all I'm going to say, because, again, this is just year 3 of the 9-year payback that we have for Bethune-Cookman. And so, look, Cats have 9 lives, and you got this is year 3. Year 3, you got this one coming, and then you got 6 more after it before we even get back to square and say, okay, this is an even matchup.
You got to win 2 or 3 things in this game. Not this game. You got to win 2 or 3 things in this matchup. You got to win the tailgate. You got to win the halftime. How about that, Bethune?
Yeah, now, look, hey, I'm going to say this is going to be controversial. This is going to be controversial. Bethune's going to come home. You want to come back to the seats for halftime. I'll be paying attention to halftime. But yeah, once we jump up by 21, 28 points in the first half, I'm watching SWAC West games at that point,
This man said you better fight for a tailgate at halftime. With that being said, going to you, Charles. Introduce this Sunday, Brian and AD. Y'all can go check it out. Great discussion in terms of the Sports Rap Show. And ultimately, the discussion came up. Who do you take in terms of the top 3 of the MEAC? Again, Howard, North Carolina Central, and Morgan State, or the top 3 in the East Division of the SWAC? FAMU, Alabama State, Jackson State. Not in any particular order, either side. Charles, who you got?
The MEAC physicality. Until the SWAC can prove different, I have to go to the MEAC physicality. And I like the top 3 teams over there in the MEAC with regards to their ability to root you out from an offensive line standpoint. So until proven different, I think only FAMU has that sort of depth along the defensive line that can hold up against those top three type of MEAC offenses.
A little out of the box. I appreciate that. Particularly talking about the honesty. I see you, Charles.
I'm a bit shocked. You came out of left field on that one, Charles. I did not expect that answer. I'll be honest with you. Because as I said on Sunday, I think 2 out of 3 games would go to the SWAC East. And I think the SWAC East teams have the better defenses. And at the end of the day, I think that defense will separate. You know, I do give some good credit to the MEAC running game. The fact that, you know, Howard has a strong running game. They do have some, obviously they got good quarterback play at a couple of the schools. But in terms of just defense, I take the defense, not only FAM, I'll take Jackson State's defense. I'll take Alabama State's defense and give me those boys against, 2 to 3. It obviously depends on what the matchups would look like, so it's just a blanket statement. But, I think in general, give me the SWAC East. I'm taking the SWAC East.
Yeah, and I'll say this about the SWAC has shown flashes. I mean, Jackson State, South Carolina State, they've shown flashes, but once we get November, December, show me something, SWAC.
Yeah.
FAMU, if you get through that championship game, we looking at you. We need you to hold up the New Balance. With that being said, I guess the matchups would be, and my idea would be FAMU, North Carolina Central. Then I look at a Howard, Alabama State. We saw how that hand looked in the MEAC SWAC Challenge a couple years ago. People say maybe some rain. And then you have Morgan State and Jackson State. I think I'll pull. I'm gonna go slightly SWAC. Particularly those matchups. With that being said, we're time up. We pushed it as long as we could. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank, as Brian Fulford has joined us today, that is Brian and AD of the Sports Wrap. You can catch all these great programs on BCSN. Charles Bishop here with Mike Washington normally in terms of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Obviously, Carlos Brown on Saturday, ONG Strike Zone. The team gets it done. They riding high, so you check them out. They're going to get you everything you need to know. The FAMU Rattlers as they strive to win a SWAC championship and then head on to the Celebration Bowl. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time and 9 a.m. on Sunday. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the news as we give you your show on Thursday. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Brian?
Lecture.
Dismiss.